If you'd like to understand why we do what we do and why we can't stop doing the things that screw our life up, this video is going to be very helpful for you. I'm going to explain what it is that makes us say to ourselves, I know what I should do, but I just can't seem to do it. So let me break it down. The first 1,000 days of our life are very, very important because they start to build our sense of who we are. We're consciously or unconsciously asking the questions, am I safe? Am I loved? And am I enough? We're looking around at our environment and the people that are looking after us, whether that's our parents or we have guardians, and we're asking, how can I get love? How can I make sure I'm safe? How can I be enough? And we're watching their actions and reactions, they're watching their behaviors, and most of all, we're reacting to how we feel. Now, based on two things. One is how we perceive what's coming in, and two is what they're doing. This is a very important thing to understand. Our parents can do the best job that they are trying to do with what they have in their mind and their awareness and their consciousness. And that might be socially shitty parenting in some situations, or it could be perfect parenting in other. That doesn't necessarily mean that you will or won't have mummy or daddy issues or trauma when you're younger. What matters here to really understand and will help you take responsibility is how you perceived what was happening. So your parents could have been trying to give you so much love based on how they felt loved or how they wanted it or how they feel like they needed it when they were younger. But they don't know your world. They don't know you as a being. So you could have perceived them giving you love, but not felt a thing at all. You could have perceived that the way that they were parenting wasn't supporting, it wasn't kind. Maybe you felt like you were never good enough. Maybe you felt like you needed to be more. Or there could have been actual situations where maybe your parents weren't as focused or they had things going on in their world, and trauma can occur. There can be breakdowns, and you know, let's be real, everyone has fights in their families. Now, what's really important to understand here is that when you're younger, what we don't want to experience as human beings is pain. So if you felt pain, if you felt rejected or sad or hurt or afraid or unsafe, you would have created defensive mechanisms to get the hell away from those emotions. Maybe you pushed them down. Maybe you smiled over them. Maybe you just pulled back. Maybe you acted out. Whatever it is, you would have worked out, right, when I do this thing, I don't feel pain. Maybe it was eating food. Maybe it was overachieving. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. What's important to understand is that that stuff works for a certain amount of time. Then you get to your 20s and you're like, oh, fuck, this isn't working anymore. Why do I keep doing this? Why am I afraid of judgment so much? Why can't I open my heart? Why am I so afraid to love? You know, why don't I have that confidence? And we ask ourselves all these questions. It comes back to the simple answer. If you want to change the behaviors in your life to become, say, for lack of a better and less corny term, more aligned. So more really who you are, not these senses of I'm this person or I'm that, and you know, I have these limitations. Like if you pull that stuff out of the road, because that's just learned behavior. That's just kind of dialogue in your own head from your hippocampus and your amygdala. Amygdala is like fight or flight, am I safe? Hippocampus is memory. They merge together. It's like I need to do this to get away from pain, create belief systems about myself. So if we pull those away, go back to a blank space and align with that part of ourselves. If you want to be able to do that, you have to go back to the source of perception, not necessarily back to the moment where you experienced the first time you were rejected or hurt and heal that wound. What healing actually is when you go back to that circumstance that you perceived that didn't happen, whether or not it did or it didn't. Forget that. But to be able to shift your perception, which is going to change your emotions around it, which is going to change your view of the world. Once that changes, your energy and your emotions will shift around that circumstance, so you won't shut down when you experience that painful thing again in the current. Then your behavior will change, then the results in your life will change. You have to go back to the source of where you perceived what you didn't get. So you need to go back to those moments in your life where you felt you didn't get love, or you weren't enough, or you were rejected, or whatever it is that creates that painful story in you. Change the way that you see that. And what's vital to understand here is that these circumstances are the things that make us grow on a spiritual level. If we don't have these challenges, we won't grow. And as human beings, if we're not growing, we don't feel fulfilled. So they're incredibly important. And why that's going to help you is because it's going to make you feel less like a victim. And at its core, what we're trying to do as human beings is get away and shed that sense of who I am, which really upholds that victim mentality of the things that were done to us and why we are the way we are and who I am. If we shed that away, we become more aligned, we can come home into ourselves, and then we get to choose what we do with our life, in our behaviors, because we've owned the situations, we've done the healing through the own taking responsibility and shifting our perceptions, and then our mummy and daddy issues helped us grow. But we all have them. Okay, so in summary, everyone has mummy and daddy issues. It's a good thing. They help us create our pain, heal through them, and grow. If you want to change your behavior, go back to the source and change your perception. Take responsibility. Then you can change your life. Good job. For a moment, I just want to speak to the fact that in our lives, a lot of us have experienced moments where they are very traumatic. I'm talking sexual abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse. What I am saying here is not dishonoring the pain and the trauma that we may or may not have experienced or justifying anyone's behaviors. All I am saying here is if you would like to change your behaviors in the current because you're in a space where you would like to move forward and work through that stuff, this is what you can do.